That's wonderful. That's good. Yeah. But now, apart from that experience, when you were, when you were studying in those two schools, what other opportunities have you had to share Guyanese culture? Um,
Mhm.
Not just, with food or any other thing, any
Okay.
other aspect of our
Take a
culture.
zoom.
How
Right.
have you been able to share that with in the UK?
I did it with 100%. So, in the schools when I studied, I was given the opportunity to introduce my culture. And so I set up like a mini exhibition. So I had my dress. I made I got fabric because of my home ec background. I was able to get the colors of my flag, and I made a dress. I probably can send you a photograph.
Oh yeah, that would be
Yes,
lovely.
so as
Yes,
time.
yes. Mhm.
And then I was able to showcase our food. So I did some of our pastries, and I had my own little corner with my Guyanese background information. I showed them on the world map where Guyana was. I showed them the map of my country and all those things, which was good. And then when I started living there, I introduced into the school multicultural day, which we used to have. I used to invite parents from the different culture because in that same school I told you I spent the longest. We had 53 languages that were spoken there.
Wow.
Yeah, and so when you become a teacher with management points, you have to do what is called a whole school project,
Mhm.
and that was my whole school project.
Mhm.
And I tell you, that ran for about 7 to 8 years
Mhm.
while at the school. So what I did was I got the kids together. First of all, it had to be in a parent meeting, and I asked parents, would you be kind enough to share with us for 10 persons a dish from your culture? So we had things from Somalia, Jamaica, you name the culture. And then I asked who has, cultural dress that they
Mhm.
can bring. And the parents took that by storm.
Mhm.
And it eventually became one of the school's largest whole school project that
Wow.
was run. We used to do it in the evening, and then it became so big, it used to be a whole day affair.
Mhm. Y'all had
Yeah.
multicultural day at school,
Yes,
right?
yeah, but
That's
it used to be called International Multicultural Day. So
okay.
all the cultures, and then we go into the hall, and then you have to have like a mini fashion show. Then you come and you have the food. First, we used to have you taste the food, and then someone suggested, "Why are you giving them away all this food? Let them buy the food," and then it becomes a more
Okay.
yeah, so that one. And before now, the school has transitioned over to an academy now, but before the academy status, it was one of the biggest event, landmark event that was left there. And I think at one time they were muted to call it Roxanne's cultural or something. I don't.
But that's nice because like you starting off by sharing your culture, your Guyanese
Yeah.
culture, and
Mm-hmm.
now it moved on and
Mushroom on,
expanded
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
showcase
So
other
the
cultures or
international
various cultures
culture.
in the community. So
Yeah,
that
man.
yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, and that has led me into, coming into contact with so many organizations because we used to go for sponsorship, a lot of things, and that has now left me with a legacy. I'm now a director on a charity called Foods from Africa and the Caribbean. The
Oh,
acronym is FACET. So I'm a
okay.
director of that. Now I'm doing an outreach for that while here. I'll talk
Okay.
about
But
that
tell me a
another
little bit about
time.
that. Foods from Africa and the Caribbean. What
Caribbean,
is it?
yeah,
The
that's the
charity, what do they do?
acronym.
What is it
Yeah,
about?
it's a charity registered. It started with three Nigerian men who wanted to introduce African foods into restaurants in England. And what came out of that is they had enough funding to advance into schools. And so I met one of the directors, and he said, well, we can include the Caribbean, because it was originally African. And then I said, of course, we have so many countries in the Caribbean, and I'll be part of that. And so that's how the initiative started, and we started to work. So I used to, in my half term, go around to schools, primary schools, and doing training program, introduce foods from the Caribbean. So I took on the Caribbean side, and then I had a colleague, he would do the African side. And then I met another colleague from Jamaica, so he used to do his Jamaican bit, and I used to do more of the Guyanese, and I used to integrate a little bit of Trinidad and Barbados and those. And so that's how it started. And then, I mean, at that time I was only a member. But then because of the amount of work I've done and some of the guys, we had two of our directors who passed away, then they roped me in. And so now I'm a director. This is my third year running. So what I mentioned I'm doing in Guyana. So when I was preparing to come, I mentioned on the committee that I'm coming to Guyana. And so one of the guys just randomly said, so what can we do for Guyana, Roxanne? Is there anything we can do? Come on, you can take something there. And I said, let me think about it. And then what I thought of, because I had my contact at Carnegie, and there's a skills training program which I visited today. I'm going to see the Carnegie folks tomorrow. So what I did at the skills training program in Eccles is I tried to find out what are the needs and what we can do from our end, whether it's training, a Zoom training, thank God for COVID and Zoom. So I'll do a training for the staff. That's the first thing the leader of the skills training program in Eccles asked for. Tomorrow I'm meeting with the principal and other staff at Carnegie to hear what they would, like from us, and then to see how I can integrate or assist. I was even saying as I sat there with the young lady today, I said maybe you can have a visit to the UK, which we can fund, and for you to come and see. So that's the kind of linkage I'm looking at now.
But so it would be like training and so on. But
Yeah.
what are in the schools in the UK? When you say foods, do you provide funding, like meals, or I'm not? That part isn't too clear for me.
For me, all right. We do have meals that are prepared, but that's a different unit. It has nothing to do with my teaching subject. So for my food technology subject, the government in England, they provide funding for our system. But I was explaining what I'm doing in this charity.
Right, that's what I'm talking about, the charity. Does the charity, because when you mentioned something about the school.
Going into school. So the charity provides funding for me to go into the school.
Oh, okay.
So because some schools do have an influx of different cultures, and so one of our aim is to enhance the foods from Caribbean and Africa
within the school, the kinds of meals that they provide at schools. Okay, now I understand.
Yes,
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean that's good. I mean, like I said, I'm hoping to retire soon, and I think I'll relish something that you can do, whether it's once a week. I'm going back into doing some demonstration. When I go back, I had that plan, which is some video recording of foods from the Caribbean that I'll be preparing, and they're recorded to share as I go in to do those trainings.
And I like that because you see, having the multicultural kind of foods, because the children, if you just give a lot of children are not too excited about school lunches, the school meals. But if you give them the kinds of things that they like, or they're used to, they're accustomed to, then it will make a difference. Yes.
Yeah, and that's the reason why
let's say even the British children would relish maybe something that's different,
Of course, they do, and they do appreciate, because, and that's the reason why we decide in the charity, we start with primary, because you want to educate them there first, so as they transition, then they can carry on. And even in the exam board now, it used to be limited with your research. So they're now using the international concept a little more. And, I'm happy for that. So like last year, they give you a scenario is to plan, we call it a showcase the choosing a country of your, where you can choose a country outside of the UK and you research that country and you prepare dishes for that country. Yeah, so they are allowed 3 hours they have to prepare. They have 3 hours in which to prepare three dishes and they call it an accompaniment, which is like what we call a side. So if you choose, say, India or Guyana, you want to do roti and curry will be one. So that the roti with its accompaniment or the curry with the roti. That's the accompaniment. Yeah. So if you choose pepper pot, you'll have to research to see what pepper pot is served with. So that could be rice or it could be bread. So that would be the second one, and then you do a third one. So you have 3 hours, and the kids they do enjoy. I mean, that's one of my one of, like I told you, the subjects I'm doing when I get back. I do the practical bit. So now they are more integrating the international and multicultural concept.
Yeah, that's good at your school level and stuff because I mean the world is a village, so
Yep.
it gets smaller and smaller. So
So true.
you mentioned, so aspects of life that have had the biggest impact in you, but just as we're getting down to the wire now, living abroad, how has that continued to impact your personal life and your experiences as an educator?
All right. Personally, for me, it's given me two sides of the coin. And I'm just going to let this out. I am in the process of writing my professionalism in two different words. Um, so, what for me, the experiences differ, but of course, it was able to bring together the whole gamut of what education is. And as I mentioned earlier, I come from a molding a nation, which I thought was a big thing. And then when I got on the other side, I discovered it was making each person fit because we're all different, right? And what tend to happen is when I was in secondary school, I mean, I was encouraged, and this is where the molded the nation. No, you have to do this subject, and you must do this subject. And when you do this subject, it leads you to this, and it leads you to that. In the UK, where we are now, the kids have a choice. As I mentioned, we call them the core subjects. They have to do these core subjects, and then in addition to the core subject, they can choose. So the child who wants to go the fine art way will choose those subjects. The child who wants to go, into the science or the applied science way or the mathematician way, they have to choose those things. So for me, what that brought out is to let me know that we are not just molding nation. We're not just making people to develop a nation tunnel vision, but you're giving a student an opportunity to look outside. I mean, I gotta reflect. I can't leave this interview without speaking about what happened to us in 2020 and 2021. Yeah. I remember the last day when we left school, we were told you're going to be teaching online. And I remember walking out of that assembly room and saying to my SLT, which is my senior leadership team member, what is working online? And his response is, Mrs. Hoppie, we are all going to be learning, And that day in March 20th, I left there very confused. What am I going to be telling these children? How am I going to be reaching these children online? Yeah. And then with my subject, how would I be able to showcase a student online, a practical subject? So I left the assembly room on the 20th of March, 2020, a confused teacher. Got home, we waiting. They said, oh, we're going to communicate by email. But we had to quickly learn. And I was able to, in that less than 3 months, get on Zoom, started to do my practical. I taught my practical subject on Zoom. I was in my kitchen demonstrating to them. When I wasn't able to demonstrate, I'd video myself, share the video with them, and there we are. And so another side of it, is the quick transition into ensuring that you can still carry on, you can still teach, you can still do it, despite you're doing it behind the screen.
Right, yes, we have
You
to learn.
know, yeah.
And now we did so.
And here we are now.
Somebody was saying that Zoom.
Who is Zoom?
Yeah, it's like, and now it's as if we can't think about life
We can't
without
think
Zoom.
about like Zoom. Yeah, look at you. Would you have done this interview with me before 2020? We would
Most
not have.
likely not.
You might have been emailing me to say, Roxanne, can you write up something about these questions for me? But now we can interface, and here we are.
Right, yeah, exactly. Different places, different countries.
Yeah.
I talked to people who live in. I had an interview with somebody who was in Ghana, in Africa.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's yeah. Is there any major lesson or one or two major lessons that you have learned from living abroad?
So many. So many. I can use two examples. In the system I work in, parent influence is paramount. It's very, very important. So like I said, we call it inner city. So the school I spent the longest was inner city. The culture there is quite different. You have parent consultation, a parent turn up, and a parent may not turn up. Now, where I am now, because it's a church school and it's in a more affluent neighborhood, you would have in a parent consultation 3 adults turning up, and you might ask why 3 when you should have a mother and a father. But there would be a grandmother also in the meeting. Yes. And so that was for me, a little culture shock, because I'm thinking, I come from in a city where the student alone may turn up, because when we used to do face to face, you're sitting in a room and a child comes and you talk them through how they progress, what they need to do. But now I would have Nan, I would have dad, I would have mom, or I may have Nan and her husband, so sometimes 4, right? And that was, something that I think works so well, which brings me to some of what we know in Guyana, where we call extended families, where you'd have, Nan and mom and, dad and mom and everyone living together. We may not have them all in the parent consultation, but the support is there. Right. So when mom and dad are out working, you come home to Nan, who will look after you until the parents arrive home. So that's something for me. And what I find from that, and I'm doing, and I don't know if it's because, I guess it's my two-sided thing, because when something like that happens, it always flag up something for me, and I'm always looking to see the results, because when I meet situations like that, I watch that family and I look how that child progresses, and I compare them with the child who possibly just had a mom alone or a dad alone, and then I try to, at the end of it, think, so maybe a family with support, there is more, you get more, for that child will have more and will excel more. And so those kinds of analogy I would tend to make. Sometimes I get very scientific with myself and start to look at researching and thinking, if I give this child less attention, the child who has a parent and extended family support, would that child excel more than the child who, who don't have? So sometimes I do my little reflective practitioner stuff, and I used to never write things down, but I find now as I get mature, I'm writing everything down, because sometimes you experience things and you never even pay attention to it, but it makes a whole lot of difference if you can make a note of it and, come up with some kind of hypothetical question, something that you can,
you could draw a conclusion eventually.
So that's the stage at, and I think that's what's going to be left with me is being able to look at those things. And I'm so happy that I did do some bit of scientific research as an educator. And so that always, send light bulbs up in my head and thinking, come on, Roxanne, you need to put this down. You need to do that. You need to talk to somebody about this. And that's one of the things my line manager loved about me. She said, you always come up with these questions that have me thinking, but it's just me.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah. That's how we grow too. You gotta think that you gotta, we can just accept things. And all right. Yeah. So as we close, I most times, not every time, but most times I end the conversation with a question that asks you to share your final thoughts about the importance of appreciating other cultures. You live in London, multicultural society. Yeah. Why do you think it's important for us to appreciate other cultures?
No man is an island. That's what I'm going to start with. And before migrating, I probably think that here in Guyana, we did our things our way, and this is the way and the ideal way, and that's what it. But then, when you introduce yourself to another culture, and for me, I mean, I've lived in England, but I've worked with people from other culture. It gives you a broader picture to know that life is not just the little things you experience yourself in the little box. It can go far beyond, and so appreciating other people's culture. I mean, in my church now, we have quite a lot of mixed culture. My past is Ghanaian, so I have a lot of Ghanaian sisters in church. I have Nigerian sisters, the list goes on, Kenyan sisters in church and all of that. And they do things different. And so you have to be able to appreciate other culture, and you would like yours to be appreciated also. And so I see that, as a big picture. So you learn from your experience, and, you share, and you just don't live in a little box and think your island is the island that
Your island is the world. Your little piece of
yeah. So for me, that's what I think. And I appreciate that. I mean, I've learned a lot. Sometimes, some of it you think, oh my God, we're doing a lot from Guyana compared to some of the things you do. I sometimes showcase. Like when we have celebration, I would probably go the extra mile to show them that, we have so much different foods that we can present, not just some jollof rice and some roast chicken. And like they would have, we have a whole lot. But, you do it in a nice way, not to just...
Right, exactly. You're not being critical or of
putting down anyone. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Roxanne. It's been a pleasure talking with Roxanne Benjamin-Hoppie today. And to the viewers, thank you for watching. We're going to see you soon as we meet new people, share more experiences in our next episode of Our Culture to the World. Thank you again, Roxanne. It's been a pleasure.
Pleasure. Thank you so much. Ciao. Bye.